Hey y'all, good evening. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. There is a lot of news. I'm just centering on this news that's been going on the past several days regarding the U.S. and Israel, President Trump, and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and all that's been going on that. I hadn't said anything earlier, as you know, because of the videos I've been showing you that Trump tends to be a flip-flopper, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde regarding his opinions, because of the fact that whoever talks to him last, he adopts that person's opinion and then goes out and parrots what that person says. So, regardless of that, I'm going to share what has been going on for the past since April 16th. I'm going to start there, where you see this article is talking about dramatic report. Israel planned to attack Iran's nuclear sites and was stopped by Trump. If you remember that, it said Israel was preparing a joint strike on Iran's nuclear facilities with U.S. support, but President Trump blocked the plan in favor of diplomatic talks with Tehran. The New York Times reports. A decision followed internal debates in Washington where concerns about regional war outweighed support for military action. That is the first thing we noticed when things started to change. Things started to go a different direction, where it seemed Trump was, starting to lean that way. But it wasn't a positive, etched in stone thing with him, but he started to teeter that way. And I think he's always wanted that, but because of the tug of war in his administration with the neocons and the Zionists versus the America First, less Zionist, more reasonable, level-headed, not wanting to restrain going to war group in his administration. So that's the first story I wanted to start with. The second one that came up, as you know, was this. Well, first there was, of course, the signal scandal, signal gate, as they call it. So the signal chat group issue that Mike Walls had put in a journalist from The Atlantic, if you recall. And at that time, when that happened, I was already saying he should have been fired just for that. Bringing in a reporter on personal stuff, which, I think that was grounds for firing there. But once President Trump found out that Mike Waltz was conspiring with Netanyahu regarding the issue with Iran behind his back, things changed. Now you'll see, says, fired Waltz enraged Trump. This is the Daily Beast, by the way. Fired Waltz enraged Trump by talking with Israel behind his back. And interesting to say, this quote, it's interesting. It says, you work for the president of your country, not a president of another country. Yeah, so, this used to be called traitors. Yeah, these are actually traitors if you're putting another country before your own. That's actually treasonous, in my opinion. So, he eventually got fired, thankfully. And I think I do believe Trump was ticked off over this going on behind his back. As I heard, he doesn't like to be, excuse me, he doesn't like to be thought of, treated like a fool. And as we know, when they were trying to, and then also let's not forget that when the U.S. was trying to work with Hamas behind the scenes, Netanyahu and his little gang in Israel sabotaged the talks that were going on. Remember that Adam Boehler had been talking and he had said things that didn't sound very good, to Zionists, where he was saying to Hamas, well, they're nice guys, and, they don't have horns coming out of their head, you just talk to them. And basically, he means you recognize them as fellow human beings. So, a lot has been going on since then. So, here we go. We have this next, okay, the firing. Then, we have the thing with the Houthis, okay? I don't think I have that one up. But you know that the Houthis they never really wanted to bomb the US ships. But if the US ships were trying to hit the Houthis, then of course they're going to respond. Their whole point, as I've said several times, is that they are trying to help the Palestinians. The genocide, the starvation that's been going on, the blockades. So what they were trying to do is block the supplies of weapons that the Israeli ships were taking to Israel and using on the Palestinians. So Trump decided, and this is another big thing, the U.S. did not let anybody in Israel know that they planned to have talks with Yemen and make the deal where they just stop shooting each other, stop bombing each other. And then Yemen was like, okay, fine. Yemen went back to bombing Israel. You'll notice that Trump didn't do anything with regard. He didn't say, and you got to stop bombing the Israeli ships. No. He was only concerned about the American ships, which is showing again the America first thing. And this isn't a selfish thing where you're saying, oh, America first. Well, you have to take care of your own country. You can't help any other country if you can't take care of your own. Okay? And so it's most important that we get that figured out and what our interests are. And our interests need to stop being bombing other countries, correct? Yes, I think you agree. So the deal with the Yemenis happened with the Houthis, really, just the Houthis. And Netanyahu was not happy because then they didn't have, and of course he was every time something would happen, he would go out to the press and say, oh no, Trump is on our side. He's we're working really hard together, and he's gonna help us with Iran and everything. He's gonna help us with this and that, and we're on the same page. I don't think that's really showing to be true if you look at what's been happening, the actions. So with that information, then we had this report, which was, again, a big shocker. All of this is shocking because to go against Israel and actually put an American president actually working to put the American foreign policy needs first, or America's needs first instead of Israel's. It has been so many decades. I can't even remember in my adult lifetime where this has been, in my adult life, since I've been an adult, that this has been going on. I haven't seen this. It feels like 30, 40 years. A long time. So it says, Huckabee, who is a huge Zionist and apparently a rapture-believing Christian Zionist. So this was shocking. But then again, if if he doesn't want to end up like Waltz, or, if he's, and perhaps nobody's saying that Huckabee's going in and conspiring behind Trump's back either. So I don't want to go overboard on Mike Huckabee. Let's just say that this was surprising, knowing that he wouldn't even recognize Palestine. Huckabee, U.S., quote, isn't required to get permission from Israel to cut deal with Houthis. Again, huge, as it says there, amid shock in Israel at Trump's deal with the Yemeni. Of course, this is the Times of Israel. They're calling Yemeni terror group. They're not terror groups. They're freedom fighters. They're helping the oppressed. That's what they do. So after that happened, the Trump's envoys and administration was still working with Hamas without excluding Israel. And what that tells me is that Trump realizes nothing's ever going to get done if Israel's involved, especially with Netanyahu. He and his ilk are stonewalling everything that is going on that Trump's trying to do in the Middle East, really. So they were able to make a deal with Hamas, and a Israeli-American young man was released. He was actually an IDF soldier. I don't know how that really works when you're actually America. You were born in New Jersey, you're an American citizen, but then you went and somehow fought for a foreign country. Again, I don't, the way history was that if you did such things as that, I heard McGregor say today, you would lose your citizenship. Of course, that changed later on, but I mean, I guess there is no such thing as traitor or treasonous things anymore. But in any case, Eden Alexander, that's the young man that was released pretty quickly because the U.S. envoy and the Hamas officials worked that out. Didn't need Israel to do that. But, he was an American citizen, so they did that. So this is all happening in the past couple weeks, really. The most, yes, since April with all this stuff building up. And it all seems to be going in the direction of what Trump initially wanted to do. But there was all these bumps and turns in the road with, infighting, or whatever you want to call it, because of the neocons on one side and the people who are America First who don't want to get into another Middle East war or any other war. So then President Trump, he has flown to Saudi Arabia to speak there and to make some deals there. And yes, he did make a big deal. I heard it was a $600 billion or million. I think 600 million. Sorry, I don't quite remember the exact, but I think it was $600 million deal with all different things. Investments with in America and with Trump having investments, American investments as well. Just a deal, Now I'm going to play the most shocking thing I heard today, and the most amazing thing that I think is well overdue and really a great thing. So this is a part I'm going to play here is from Trump's speech in Saudi Arabia. And just take a look at what he says in this particular spot here.
In other cities throughout the peninsula, places like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Doha, Muscat, the transformations have been unbelievably remarkable. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that. And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spend trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly.
You know that feeling when you've planned something your whole
sorry.
life and it's finally happening?
This always
That was
happens
me
when I play
last
this.
summer
When
in
I
Italy.
first listen, there's
After
nothing.
decades of dream,
But when I play it for you all, that happens. So sorry.
And it's something only you could do. You achieved a modern miracle, the Arabian way. That's a good way. Today, the Gulf nations have shown this entire region a path towards safe and orderly societies with improving quality of life, flourishing economic growth, expanding personal freedoms, and increasing responsibilities on the world stage. After so many decades of conflict, finally it is within our grasp to reach the future that generations before us could only dream about, a land of peace, safety, harmony, opportunity, innovation, and achievement right here in the Middle East. So beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing that's happening. I guess, the people that are here can't even really appreciate it because you see it happening, and it's when you come to a place that you haven't seen in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years that it's even more incredible. When I left office just over 4 years ago, that future seemed almost impossible, what you've done. Together we had obliterated the killers of ISIS. We wiped them out, terminated its founder and leader, al-Baghdadi. We had healed the...
Okay, so the main point of what I wanted to share with you was the fact that he finally, yes, I know he's reading a speech. I want to know who wrote this speech. But he has finally humbled himself, which in return, in my opinion, the U.S. has now finally recognized the destruction that has been done through the voice of Donald Trump, President Trump. All of the horrific, evil things that we've done with regime change, with the butting into these people's countries in the Middle East, thinking that we know best for them when it's all about resources and we didn't care. And yes, he finally admits nobody knows how, these people that were doing all this, these neocons, and they don't, and the Zionists really too, that are in our government, they both have no clue about the Middle Eastern life of these countries. Not that I'm saying I'm a huge fan of Saudi Arabia, but you know what? That's their country. They are going to live as they see fit because it's their traditions, whether we like it or not. And he made that point. It's your traditions. It's you who have progressed your nations. Okay, and I think that means not just this. I see he said the Gulf ones, but not just that, but the other nations as well have done that because they made those moves, not because we forced them into it, because it never worked anyway, as he was saying. So it was really important to see that he recognized that. And, that shows a lot of respect. And you should show a lot of respect for foreign leaders, leaders of other countries, because they're human too. And you can't have a relationship if you're constantly bullying and bombing. It's like Colonel McGregor would say, there was the 3 B's: bribe, bully, and bomb. That's not a way to have a foreign policy, but that is the way it has been, especially after 9/11. That seemed to be like the green light to go and become this Tasmanian devil tornado through all these countries and just ruining these countries that were just starting to prosper and everything, such as Libya and all those. Anyway, I was amazed by this. I was so glad to hear this. Now, of course, as we said, he flip-flops, and I've heard McGregor say, well, we don't know what he's going to say 2 weeks from now, but, I'm going to show the optimistic side. If this changes, you'll know I'll be out talking about that as well. But I feel like President Trump has been tied down, so to speak, on what he really wanted to do. And so with that, he was getting nowhere on what his plans were, what he wanted to do with these nations, especially apparently in the Middle East, and what he wants to do. And, as I've heard, his instincts are good, but then he listens to people, and he's not using his own views, his principles in this, because, like I said the other day, he didn't have any principles according to Colonel Kwiatkowski. But in any case, he is a people person. He does want to make deals with people. The past few days, I've heard him say at least twice that he wants Iran to prosper. That's his first choice. And even if Iran doesn't, he didn't go immediately to what he had said like 2 or 3 weeks ago, or even the last month. Well, we're just going to have to bomb you. No. He said sanctions, which Iran's already on sanctions. But in any case, it was a more economic thing than, and sanctions aren't good either, but at least his first words weren't what we always hear. Bomb, 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 bomb. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens next, if things keep going in this direction or not. We will be keeping an eye on all of that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Please follow my channel. Like my videos if you like them. Share my channel. Share my videos. Follow me here. Subscribe on YouTube. My YouTube channel is the same name. I'm on both. I'm on Rumble and YouTube. Thanks so much. I appreciate all your support. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I've got to go off and start cooking, so for dinner. Thanks so much. Until next time.